Ladies and gentlemen of Lawrence, you guys need to pay attention over the next 24 hours and do a little bit of research. In just about 24 hours from now, the city is going to vote on a general agenda item. There's two items attached there. One is reforming the board of the Lawrence Community Shelter and appointing 3 board members from the city, 2 board members from the county, and then, if I understand correctly, leaving 2 or 3, I think it's 2 board members from the existing LCS board. If you read Chancey Long's article on MB Out Loud, you would have seen she did some interviews with Amy Price, who is a former board member at this point. She resigned from the board, I'm going to assume, in protest. I haven't spoken to Amy, but just judging from the quotes in the article, it doesn't seem that she's too supportive of these decisions, and nor is a good number of people that are in the know about how things work. The article, City of Lawrence eyes LCS location as a spot for 45 pallet shelter. Request LCS increase services in exchange for $150,000 and moves toward replacing Valdez as interim director. Now, that's the article. I'm going to hit a couple high points. I might hit more than a couple here. City Manager Craig Owens is asking the City Commission to delegate an additional $150,000 to the Lawrence Community Shelter. Now, the first question is going to be, is that the $150,000 that you already technically, don't you owe them? Yeah, we'll come back to that. Now, as we go down, we see some quotes from, I believe it's Amy Price. I'm sorry, Jamie Price. The quote here: when the city requested that the shelter take on the additional burden of supporting the night-to-night shelter guests, there was a handshake agreement that funds would follow. And she continues to say that, I believe the city purposely put the shelter in a financial situation so the shelter would have to agree to a shared governance model for additional funding to support what they've already asked the shelter to do back in March. Now, this is an example of a city using its leverage, using our tax dollars as leverage to force a situation. Now, one of the things that really concerns the advocates around here is this statement. However, the addendum states that LCS will have to provide and sustain additional services in order to receive the money. And they're not defining what day services are. And then another stipulation is that LCS will offer operational support to other emergency and temporary sheltering programs within the city. Now, for a lot of you that aren't paying attention day to day in this, a while back the city put out a request for proposal called an RFP for a service provider to run the pallet village that they're already constructing out at North Michigan. I'll insert a couple pictures here. You can take a look. A little bit of video, and nobody responded to that. They didn't get any proposals from a qualified service provider to manage that. The city even took proactive measures to go out and reach out to a service provider and or two, from what I understand, to see if they would be interested in coming in, and they refused. Now, the city cannot be the service provider, but what is happening here is the city is basically co-opting LCS, the Lawrence Community Shelter, into a position to where they are the city's straw man, for lack of a better word. They're putting the LCS in a position of a straw man, basically doing the city's bidding to run this as a service provider. That's what we see is happening here. They don't have any other way to do it. The city, the idea that they're going to put an additional 45 shelters out at LCS, and this is on top of, 35, 50, 70, I don't know, we've heard different numbers for the area out on North Michigan. Now, I think the city really needs to answer some questions from the public about this before we go into this, because we've seen the failures at the camp out in North Lawrence, this thing they call New Beginnings. And unfortunately, there haven't been many new beginnings out of there. There's been a few sad endings, actually.